This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Farewell to Francis. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. The Vatican has just announced plans for the Pope's funeral. It'll happen Saturday, 4 a.m. our time. Get up early if you want to watch. Now, beginning tomorrow, the late Pope will lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica. Correspondent Chris Livesay has more from Rome.
He'll now be buried within the next 4 to 6 days. But then the big event is the conclave. That's when cardinals descend upon Rome from all corners of the earth to elect the next pope. That's going to happen within the next 15 to 20 days.
John Allen is editor of Crux, a news site for Catholics.
Now let's be clear, these are not the Iowa caucuses. Nobody's going to be standing up barnstorming on behalf of their preferred candidate, but this is as close to political sausage grinding as we're going to get.
President Trump will be among the world leaders attending the Pope's funeral this weekend. NBC's Tom Yamas continues our coverage from the Vatican.
Outside of the streets of Rome, Catholics gathering to pay their respects.
He's in our hearts, he's with God right now.
Including a rosary prayer service in St. Peter's Square.
The Vatican confirming the Pope's cause of death was cerebral stroke, which led to irreversible heart failure. The pontiff also suffered a coma. Parental rights before the U.S. Supreme Court today. The justices hearing a highly charged case out of Montgomery County, Maryland. Parents there are upset that their children were forced to read books at school with LGBTQ themes. The school board ruled that school children could not opt out of the required curriculum. The parents argue that ruling violates their First Amendment rights. Expect a ruling from the Supreme Court in June. In a 7-2 decision, the High Court has temporarily blocked the Trump White House from deporting any more illegal immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act.
The only dissents, Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, criticizing colleagues for issuing an order, quote, without giving the lower courts a chance to rule, without hearing from the opposing party, and without providing any explanation for its order.
David Spunt with Fox News. Here's legal scholar Jonathan Turley.
The administration wants to fight on this hill. That's very obvious. What we need is clarity. The Supreme Court's got to come in. They've got to deal with this Alien Enemies Act. They've got to define what the president's authority is under that act.
Turley says absent greater specificity from the High Court, the deportation legal limbo will continue. The feud between Harvard and the Trump administration is escalating. The Ivy League school suing the president to try and reverse a $2.2 billion federal funding freeze. It has to do with Harvard's refusal to reverse course when it comes to anti-Semitic activity.
I think we have to reevaluate how we fund higher education, because the purpose of higher education is to prepare our students for the workforce and to advance knowledge. It is not to become indoctrination factories. It is not to teach people how to hate Israel or to hate America. And unfortunately, at all too many institutions, that's what it's become.
Harvard alum and Florida Congressman Randy Fine. New numbers from the Anti-Defamation League show anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. broke records last year.
The ADL recorded more than 9,300 anti-Semitic incidents across the country last year. Rachel Sass with the ADL Center on Extremism says as far as where they're seeing it,
while college campuses used to be relatively marginal in terms of a location of where anti-Semitism occurs, it's now become one of the major epicenters of where we see anti-Semitic activity.
That report from Jennifer Kuiper with CBS News. President Trump says the war in Ukraine could be winding down soon. He plans to roll out his peace plan over the next few days. Reporter Madeline Rivera has the latest from the White House.
President Trump says he wants to move quickly to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine. And in a shift, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he may be open to the possibility of bilateral talks with Ukraine for the first time in years.
Foreign affairs expert Ellie Gohanan.
The steps that they're looking at is a short-term deal that will eventually lead to long-term peace.
The Wall Street Journal reports the Trump White House is willing to make concessions to Russia to speed up a ceasefire. This would include allowing Russia to keep Crimea, which Russia annexed from Ukraine back in 2014. President Trump is also on record opposed to NATO membership for Ukraine. In less than a month, Real ID will be a real thing at airports nationwide. You'll need that or an enhanced driver's license to board airplanes or enter federal buildings.
At least 16 states are less than 50% compliant with the law, which goes into effect May 7th. The TSA plans to treat that date as an all-hands-on-deck day because of the looming potential for disruptions at airport checkpoints. As of last week, New Jersey had the lowest compliance rate. Just 17% of its state-issued IDs are real IDs. Pennsylvania follows, then Washington State and Maine. States mail the new IDs, but it can take up to 2 weeks to receive it.
Correspondent Matt Piper, America's declining birth rate is cause for concern. Even President Trump's Doge administrator, Elon Musk, has taken notice.
I want to emphasize this. The biggest issue in 20 years will be population collapse. Not explosion, collapse.
For the record, Musk has 14 children himself. Author Douglas Murray weighing in on the declining birth rate.
One of the explanations for it is just an anti-human attitude which has been pumped into our societies in recent years in the West. Consider the way in which the Green Movement talks to young people about themselves. For years it said effectively, you are the problem. By having been born, you're causing the destruction of the planet, and if it wasn't for us humans, all the moss and the trees, it would all be getting on great. And it suggests that, like, human beings are the problem, where in fact we're, in my view at least, the point of being here.
Author Douglas Murray. Now, part of the reason for the declining birth rate is the fact that men and women are waiting longer to get married. The average age for a woman's first marriage in this country is 28. For men, it's 30. Still to come on the Noon Report, abuse settlement reached in Buffalo, Operation Hard Hat, and proposed changes at PA gas pumps.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Cool, gusty breezes and some sunshine in the forecast mix for this afternoon. We'll check the next couple of days in the complete forecast coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, look for you then. Thank you, Kevin. New York State Police are out and about looking for speeders in highway work zones.
Oftentimes people get very complacent when they're driving. There are so many things in your vehicle that can occupy your time, and people don't always focus on the task at hand, which is driving.
That's State Trooper Aga Tinker, and she says Operation Hard Hat is all about protecting those who work between those orange cones. She took part in a speed enforcement effort yesterday on I-81 near Syracuse.
They've already had a vehicle traveling 90 miles per hour through an active work zone. There are people in that work zone. We're just asking you to please slow down so that those people have a chance to get home and get back to their families.
Daniel Scharfenberger is a public information specialist with the New York Department of Transportation.
Slow down. Pay attention. There are people that are fixing your roads to try to make the highways safer for you, the driving public.
Fines are doubled in work zones in New York, and a ticket in a work zone can cost you 8 points on your driver's license. The Pennsylvania Game Commission is spraying 40,000 acres of state game land this month. It's to control the spongy moth population. That insect causes severe defoliation if left untreated. Spongy moth egg masses typically hatch in late April or early May. A $150 million settlement has been reached between the Diocese of Buffalo and sex abuse survivors. It's to resolve over 800 abuse claims, the majority of which involve pedophile priests. Abuse survivor Kevin Brunn telling News Talk 930.
I personally find it an insultingly low amount. The survivors, in the end, we're going to get crumbs that fall from the table. $150 million. It sounds like a large amount of money when you're talking about somewhere between 800 and 1,000 victims. If you do the math, it comes out to about $185,000 per survivor.
This settlement involves parishes and schools in the Buffalo area linked to decades of abuse. The agreement is being discussed in a hearing today in federal court in Buffalo. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's joining Catholics all over the world in mourning mourning the loss of Pope Francis, who died Monday at the age of 88.
My recollection of meeting Pope Francis is a man of great humility, but also love of people. And that means he was fighting for the marginalized.
The governor met the Pope last year at a climate change conference at the Vatican. The Pope suffered a stroke early yesterday, leading to irreversible heart failure. Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro has ordered flags lowered to half staff in his honor. Shapiro calls the Pope a fighter for the defenseless. Governor Hochul is seeing a slight improvement in her favorability and job approval rating, according to the latest Siena College poll. 44% of New Yorkers give Hochul a thumbs up. That's up from 40% in March. Still, just 39% of New Yorkers are prepared to re-elect the governor next year. 48% prefer somebody else. Big changes may be coming to Pennsylvania gas stations. Family Life's Brian Query says they could make it easier for you to understand what exactly you're paying for.
Proposed legislation in Pennsylvania would put new labels on all gas pumps in the Commonwealth. The labels would detail the federal and state tax rates on gasoline and diesel fuel. Sponsors of the legislation say consumers have a right to know how much of their money is going to the gas tax with every gallon they purchase. The total tax on gas in the Commonwealth, combining state and federal taxes, is 77 cents a gallon. Only California and Illinois have higher gas taxes. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. There are several Drug Take-Back Day events planned in the Family Life listening area this Saturday, April 26th. Unused, unwanted, or expired medications can be dropped off between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Pills, patches, ointments, liquids, and sprays are all accepted. To find a collection site near you, check out DEA.gov. That's DEA.gov. Pennsylvania culinary students are off to the races, so to speak. 28 student chefs from the Penn College of Technology in Williamsport have earned a field assignment doing food prep for the 151st annual Kentucky Derby. How about that? Chef instructor Charles Niedenmeyer tells WNEP
students will be doing everything from grilling asparagus to making macarons. By Derby Day, a lot of students will put in 12, 14, 16-hour days. It's a great test of their endurance.
Aspiring chef Emma Del Campo's heading back for her second Derby cooking experience.
I've only worked in bake shops, so getting that raw, new, really busy culinary experience was like mind-blowing for me.
The students will be at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, April 28th, and they'll be cooking until Derby Day on May the 3rd. The famed horse race draws about 150,000 people every year. This is the Noon Report, and we've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the Knicks could not hold serve on their home court as they fell to the Pistons 100-94. Cade Cunningham led Detroit with 33 points and 12 rebounds as they even the series at 1. Jalen Brunson led all scorers with 37 points. The Knicks will try to regain control of the series Thursday night in Game 3. The Clippers also evened up their series with Denver at 1 game apiece. LA edged the Nuggets 105-102. On the diamond, the Guardians took down the Yankees to win their 4th game in a row. Jose Ramirez had the big blow, a 3-run home run, and that led Cleveland to a 6-4 victory over the Bronx Bombers. The Mets kicked off their home series with the Phillies in a big way as Francisco Lindor hit a leadoff home run. Then he hit another one later in the game. He finished with 4 ribbies, 5-4 the final. The Amazons have won 5 straight. Give credit to the Phillies, though. They were down 5-0 entering the 9th inning, and they scored 4 runs, 3 of which came on a Bryson Scott long ball, but the rally fell short. Elsewhere in the Bigs, the Red Sox doubled up the White Sox 4-2. Houston shut out Toronto 7-zip. The Marlins 6-3 winners over the Reds. The Braves edge the Cardinals 7-6. And the Giants beat the Brewers 5-2. On the ice, your all-time leading goal scorer has done it again. Alex Ovechkin slammed home the game winner in overtime. The Caps edge Montreal 3-2. The Kings won 6-5 over Edmonton, so both the Kings and the Caps now up 1-0 in their best-of-7 playoff series. The Jets have gone up 2-0 after eking out a 2-1 win over the Blues, and Dallas won a 4-3 overtime contest to even up their series at 1 with Colorado. That is a look at sports.
All right, great to have you back in the saddle, Randy. Thank you. And still to come on the Noon Report, Pope funeral set. Defense chief goes on offense, and parental rights at the Supreme Court.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. On Monday, April 21st, Pope Francis I died in Vatican City in Rome. On Easter, in defiance of medical advice, he gave a public speech before meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. His staff had described his health as improving just last week, but at 88 years old and struggling with lung ailments, his passing was not wholly unexpected. Francis was born in 1936 to an Italian immigrant family in Argentina. Given the name Jorge Mario Bergoglio, he embodied a number of firsts. He was the first pope to have worked as a nightclub bouncer, the first to be born in the Americas, the first since the 8th century to have not been born in Europe. He was also the first Jesuit pope and the first to accept the name in honor of St. Francis of Assisi. And with the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, he was the first pope since the 13th century to take office while a previous pope was still alive. Even before becoming Bishop of Rome, Francis had a reputation of preferring informality over the trappings of clerical office. He took public transportation, cooked his own meals. More recently, as Pope, he chose orthopedic shoes over the famed papal red slippers. He also built a reputation as a friend of outsiders, speaking up for migrant peoples around the world and occasionally clashing with President Trump. He spoke up for the dignity of the poor. He reminded Roman Catholics that caring for the least of these was not an optional aspect of faith and practice. To quote his own words, "We have to state, without mincing words, that there's an inseparable bond between our faith and the poor. May we never abandon them," end quote. His care and sympathy for children was especially pronounced, and his care for children with Down syndrome was both personal and important in this cultural moment where so many are targeted for elimination. And it was not just his words, it was often his deeds. Just hours before his death, he stopped to bless a fussy baby as he was being driven through St. Peter's Square. Years earlier, he allowed a young boy with Down syndrome to ride beside him in the famous Pope Mobile, and once held the hand of a young girl who had the same condition after she wandered up to the front of the room as he was speaking. He was also quite clear on the horror of abortion, referring to it as, and I quote, hiring a hitman to solve a problem, as well as the ethical crises that have been created by artificial reproductive technologies. On the other hand, he courted and he created much controversy. His tendency to speak freely and off the cuff brought moral confusion, to say the least. More than a few prominent conservative voices within the church were silenced under Francis' more progressive priorities. On very important issues, such as the role of women in the church, the ethics of LGBTQ, and the global conflicts in the Middle East and in Europe, Francis had a habit of giving vague and confusing comments to the press. More than once, his staff were forced to walk back statements he had made. In this media environment, one so eager to see the Catholic Church overturn established doctrines and practices. Frankly, it was hard to tell at times whether Francis was attempting to change things or was just really inexperienced in this media environment. And what many faithful still find most concerning are the people who were put into office by Pope Francis, especially those who will play a large role in shaping the ongoing trajectory of the Roman Church. Even those of us who do not embrace Roman Catholic doctrine or leadership should pray for God's mercy, grace, and wisdom here. Many are mourning the loss of this pope, and billions will be affected by whatever decisions lie ahead. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Dr. Timothy Paget, and for more resources to live like a Christian in this cultural moment, visit us at breakpoint.org.
All right, John, thank you very much. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. A mix of clouds and sunshine with a cool, gusty breeze and high temperatures ranging generally in the 50s and low 60s in New York State, as high as 70 in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania. Tonight, mainly clear, low temps 30s and low 40s. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow. High temperatures 60s and near 70. Sunshine warmer Thursday with high temperatures mostly well into the 70s.
All right, take it. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today, Tuesday, April 22nd. And here's what's going on. A succession process is underway now in Rome, Italy. The College of Cardinals meeting at the Vatican to begin the process of selecting a successor to Pope Francis, who died Monday. Papal contributor Dee Gallagher.
On Wednesday, the Pope will be laid in St. Peter's Basilica, so crowds will be able to come and pay their respects to him. So we have quite a bit to get through in the next month before we see who the next Pope will be.
After a papal funeral on Saturday, the College of Cardinals begins the time-honored tradition of picking a new Pope.
The Holy Spirit's already chosen the next Pope. Our job is to find out who it is.
New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan reflecting on what made the last Pope so special.
Pope Francis almost had like a radar for people who were left behind at the side of the road.
Dolan says Francis believed in one simple truth.
The best way I can convert souls is by touching hearts. Jesus did it. He did it.
The Pope's funeral set for Saturday morning, 4 a.m. our time. President Trump will be among the world leaders in attendance. There's growing fallout over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth after he shared detailed military plans in a second group chat. This one included his wife and brother. NBC's Garrett Hayes.
The administration's second signal scandal shares some hallmarks with the first. It involves sending sensitive information about the same March airstrikes in Yemen by the same cabinet official, Pete Hegseth. This time with roughly a dozen people, including family members, in the chat. But also, like the first scandal, President Trump is so far standing by his defense secretary, even as calls for his resignation continue to grow.
This morning, Hegseth defended his actions on Fox News.
No one's texting war plans. What was shared was informal, unclassified coordinations. Everything we do here is above board, trying to make sure that we safeguard information. Those folks who were leaking, who have been pushed out of the building, are now attempting to leak and sabotage the president's agenda and what we're doing. And that's unfortunate.
The New York Times reports that Hegseth shared flight schedules for U.S. military jets that were targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Supreme Court is hearing arguments today from 3 Maryland couples who argue their religious rights were violated when the Montgomery County, Maryland school system forced their children to read books with LGBTQ themes.
Pre-K and elementary school kids. These are not adults or young children in their youth who are matured enough that the parents have agreed to put in these classes.
Those parents were not allowed to opt their children out of those classes, a decision expected in June. Harvard University suing the Trump White House in an effort to block the government from freezing funding at that Ivy League school. DEI programs and anti-Semitic activity is the reason why the Trump administration put the federal freeze on. The IRS is also moving to take away Harvard's tax-exempt status. Congressional Republicans trying again to get former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo prosecuted over testimony related to the COVID pandemic.
Republicans tried in the fall when Democrats were in power, but no action was taken. And now Representative James Comer of Kentucky hoping for a different outcome against Cuomo, who is a leading candidate in the New York City mayor's race. Comer, the chairman of a subcommittee, resubmitted the case to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, which accuses Cuomo of lying to Congress over COVID-related nursing home deaths. A Cuomo spokesperson says the prosecutorial effort is politically motivated. Scott Pringle, New York.
All right, Scott, thank you for that. Next up at noon today, an inside look at the Ministry of Bible Quizzing from Becky Cable. She coaches several family life quizzing teams that are hitting the road today for a national tournament in Wisconsin. Cable spoke recently with our own Mark Webster, and here's some of their conversation.
For the rookies out there, what is Bible quizzing? I mean, folks of a certain age might be thinking sword drills on steroids.
steroids or something like that. Tell us what it's all about.
Well, Bible quizzing is more of a memorization of large portions of Scripture. This year, our season was studying the entire book of the Gospel of Luke. And so each month there was an assignment. Say we did 4 chapters a month, not necessarily chronologically in order, but by the end of the season, we've covered all 24 chapters. And so we have some quizzers who have memorized the entire 1,149 verses. And then you're formed on teams, and you have a quiz master who asks questions, and you're sitting on an electronic pad. And when you stand up, your pad triggers a light on a laptop that the quiz master is reading from. And then whoever triggers the light first has that opportunity to answer the question that the quiz master just posed. So you have 20 seconds to remember that verse, no pressure at all, and 30 seconds if it's a quote where you verbatim, word for word, must quote that verse without any errors in it.
A lot of prep time to get to that level of knowledge.
Oh my gosh. It's a long season. We start in September with our first meet, and we finish up in March. But then we're working hard for nationals, which is April. It's an intensive kind of and some people call it a sport. It takes dedication. It takes a lot of self-motivation because you're kind of competing against yourself. You have a team, and not everyone on your team is going to be memorizing the same material that you are, so that as a team you can cover more chapters. You don't want all 7 of your teammates to be covering Luke chapter 12. That doesn't help you. Mm-hmm. So you need your team.
Truly a team sport.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And it's fast-paced. It's a lot of fun. You have such encouragement from your teammates and from the other teams. This is not a competition where it's cutthroat. Your competitors are encouraging you, wanting you to do well. Yes, they're competing against you, but it's what we say a lot, iron sharpening iron. You're at it to make each other better. It's friendly, but it can be intense. Our kids are just competitors, you know, but there's different levels. Like in any sport, you've got your kids who are just incredibly gifted, talented, real go-getters. And there's others on your team that are your encouragers. They're the ones who are in it because they love their teammates and they love the Word of God, but they may not be as competitive as some of their teammates. But it's okay. You need all of them. It's incredible. It is the most fulfilling ministry I think that I've ever been a part of.
How'd you get involved with it?
I'm a homeschool mom. Well, my kids have graduated now, but we were introduced to it when we were living in Cattaraugus County. My 2 kids got to try it. And once they got in the seats and they started trying it, they were just hooked. They were like, oh, this is fun. I want to do this. And that was in the fall of 2017. And we've been involved ever since as coaches and now leading it for the past 2 years.
Obviously, learning Scripture is certainly one of the prime goals here, but any travel sport, if you will, there certainly are other things you learn, just life experience. Now, you're headed to Wisconsin as a former travel hockey dad. Kids can learn a lot just hitting the road and competing together, whatever the competition might be. So you get some life experience out of it, too.
Oh, my word. The bus trip is half the fun. You're on that bus together, and the kids are just singing. We have some kids that are musically inclined, and they'll bring their guitar, and they just worship for a couple of hours at a time. And it is just the most fun, the most holy of times. It's really fascinating. And other times they're just laughing, playing games. Sometimes they'll have times of actual study and they'll quiz each other. And the adults, it's not just for the kids, but the adults as coaches, you get time to actually get to know one another and realize just how much you have in common with each other. It's so encouraging, either as parents in general, when you see what's going on in the culture, but then you're in this bus traveling with all these kids and it's peaceful. It's just unlike anything else.
Sounds like a church on wheels.
Yes, very much so.
It's a sports cliche. If you had fun, you won. If you were in it, that's the thing. But probably no place you'd find that to be more true than Bible quizzing.
Yeah, the fun is something. And our first nationals as a family that we went to was in 2018. And every year since then, we have gone, except for 2020. But the kids will remember one another until they age out. So you go back and you're like, oh, I remember that one. It's kind of special when you make friends from across our country. And now with the way people can stay connected. Social media. Some of our kids, they really have good friends in the Midwest. And you're like, how did you ever get to meet them? Well, it's Bible quizzing. It's very unique.
You just must have seen kids grow in just some very special ways.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. The really fun part of this and fulfilling part is watching these kids. We've instilled in the last couple of seasons, really encouraging the kids to lead as much as possible during our quiz meets. So we open up our quiz day with worship and a devotion. And most of the time, it's the kids leading worship and it's the kids doing the devotion. It is just wonderful to watch these kids grow and be in front of their peers and challenging each other and bringing the word in that they're studying and be able to just say, hey, this is what the scripture is meaning to me. This is what I'm challenged with, and let's walk this road together. It's a beautiful, beautiful ministry. And I'm not sure what God's going to do with this, but I just know that he's preparing these kids to lead us, and they're doing a fabulous job. We have our challenges, of course, but they are growing through them. And we're just so encouraged as adults watching this. They challenge us, and hopefully we're helping them along as well.
That is Becky Cable coaching a group of Family Life Bible quizzers who are now on their way to a national competition in Wisconsin. You can track that competition on the website quizzing.live, and you can subscribe to all our original podcasts, including this one, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The cold front that kicked up some showers and thunderstorms yesterday and last night has cleared the region, and high pressure building in from Wisconsin will help to produce some drier weather and some cool gusty breezes as we progress through the afternoon into tonight. That high will produce a bright sunny day tomorrow and hang on for at least some sun with a warm-up come Thursday. For this afternoon, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a cool gusty breeze and high temperatures ranging generally in the 50s and low 60s in New York State, as high as 70 in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania. Tonight, mainly clear, low temps 30s and low 40s. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow. High temperatures 60s and near 70. Some sunshine warmer Thursday with high temperatures mostly well into the 70s.
Okie doke, Kevin. Thank you kindly. And finally, at noon today, we celebrate a humble candy that we've been eating since the Civil War. Can you guess what it is? Bree Tennis has more on National Jelly Bean Day.
Jelly beans have been to space. It was a president's favorite, and it's the first candy ever to be sold by weight. And we love them. According to CandyStore.com, last year Americans ate 16 billion jelly beans, and they're not really bad for us. One jelly bean has 4 calories. They're vegetarian, gluten-free, kosher, and free of most allergens. And when you eat them, the burst of sugar releases endorphins that make you happy. So have another jelly bean. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, I think I will. Thank you, Bree. And that's our world. The world we live in, Tuesday, April 22nd. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.